Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Season 2 of Sounds Like a Drum. Today we're doing a response video to the last video, which was big drums tuned high. Now we're doing skinny drums tuned low. So we're kicking off Season 2, which is going to have a lot of kind of new stuff for us going on here, including some kind of sub-series on other days of the week that are going to be recurring on certain themes, in addition to the Tuesday tutorials that are going to stay every Tuesday as they have been for the last year. And we'd really like to thank and welcome ProMark by D'Addario as series sponsor for the Tuesday tutorials. You've been seeing ProMark this whole time, and now they got on board with us, which is fabulous. And today, we're going to use all that stuff to hit this awesome drum from Blackwood Drums that was made for me by Travis Morgan, the builder there. And it is going to kind of demonstrate how a skinny drum does the high skinny drum thing really well. But it's really, I mean, just like the one from last week with the deep, the COB drum, if you missed it, go check that out, because even I was surprised what that did. We're going to go down in the dumps with this one and go for a fat sound that will be different than a fat sound from a deep drum. So the drum we're using today is from Blackwood Drums. It's a Stave shell cherry wood drum, 4 inches deep, 14 diameter, 8 lugs. And we have a coated G1 on the top, Evans. We have a 300 snare side and 24 strand brass Custom Pro Puresounds on the bottom. I had this drum made just after randomly meeting this builder on Instagram and just chatting about drums and how I'd never had a Stave drum before, and I kind of wanted something in the sort of like, something reminiscent of like the Gretsch drums from the 60s that were 8 lug and 4 inches deep, like a bop drum, but something a little more modern, a little bit louder, a little more aggressive, And so what this boiled down to was he basically built it for me and said, check it out, see if you like it. And so I bought it because it was awesome. And it actually does a lot of stuff that I didn't know a 4-inch drum could do. At the time, I just wanted something to tune high for when I felt like making that kind of sound. I've ended up actually using it for low tunings as much or more than high tunings because of the way it behaves when it's kind of down there in the lower register. Right now, it's tuned in the Don't Stand So Close to Me register. It is ridiculously high, but it still has a note. It's a short note, but it's not dead and it's not choked. The bottom head is tight, but I can press it in a little bit, and the top head is super duper high. But importantly, there's still tone in the center. So let's check this sound out, and then we'll kind of swim down and see what happens. Also, before we forget, due to viewer request, we have some hoodies and t-shirts down below if you want to check those out and support the series. People have been asking about a little bit about just like the process that we go through when we're changing tunings here and going for sounds and stuff like that. And I do pretty much do the same thing every time. And that's just to go around the drum in the sort of normal like star pattern with really small increments, like between 1/8 and 1/4 of a turn, and then press the head a little bit in the center, and then just kind of check and see if all the lugs still sound the same, like all the locations. And then if one of them is a little off, I fix that one before I start tuning stuff down again, because if you get one of them really far out, it can start to make the sound of the rest of them a little bit confusing. And for this, like even just going from super tight to super low isn't going to be more than maybe 1/2 or 3/4 of a turn on each of these, but I want to do little increments. And then when I feel like I'm in the ballpark, just checking the center, make sure that there's a good tone there. Going around and making sure that none of the lugs feel loose. We've talked in the past about bumping them up a little bit after you reach your target if you're tuning down. It's good to just check that and just make sure. So in the interest of variety, this is sort of a middle tuning. The last one was screaming high. This is sort of in the middle. We're going to do like a super low one in a second. But this is starting to exhibit the property of shallow drums for loud music that I like, which is that the center of the drum stays kind of dry when you have the wires tight, not tight, but engaged. But when you go to do a rim shot, you actually get kind of a lot of singing and sustain out of the wires, which some people feel like is too much wire sound, or it makes them uncomfortable to hear all that racket coming out. But it actually results in sort of like a built-in reverb almost, and a sort of source of fatness for the sound, both for microphones and the audience and you and everything else. And it necessarily means that you have control over where you're hitting the head, like consistency wise, and your choices about rim shots, when you want to do them, when you don't. You can almost use it like an overdrive pedal or something like that, where the big part of the song comes and you've been smashing the center of the drum for the rest of the song without catching the rim, and then you bring the rim in when you really want to elevate the energy, and you get this extra tone from the wires in addition to the drum. And it's all about just the batter head making a note that has some sustain to generate that kind of play from the wires afterward. This is the sort of pitch range that I use this drum in most of the time. Sometimes I'll put my wallet on it if the overtones are excessive, or if I feel like I want like a punchier or like a more, I don't know, disco-y kind of sound or something like that. But this video is about going low. So we're going to go usably low, but as low as I can get it to do something that would make sense to use in a recording or a live context. Yeah, so that first sound was pretty cuckoo. There was a lot of sustain in the wires. I thought it was pretty cool. It reminded me of like some Beastie Boys records, or even like Soul Coughing, different things where like the intention is to have almost like a janky lo-fi snare sound, which is super fun. But then just putting my wallet on it, it cleaned it up and took it all the way over to this other territory where it's just fat, and the rim shot sound even is kind of warm and woody. And it took all of that jangly sustain away, which again, like if you're tuning for a sound and you want it low, it might be that the drum sounds crazy without a wallet on it, or, you know, a moon gel, or whatever, you know, your preferred item is. But even like putting like a handful of, you know, like a nut shake or bells or something on that is gonna quell some of those overtones. But you have to go down there to get that pitch for the fatness so that the head can move enough to give you a longer sound. And again, this is all just about imitating sustain in the drum, because the drum itself is a short sound, so you have to find ways to make it a longer sound. And it's way fun to just experiment with things like this, and especially to go against the grain of what you imagine the drum is for. Don't let your preconceptions about your instrument dictate how you use it, and make sure that you experiment a lot whether it's with head choices or just with tunings and stick choices, or even just with looking for inspiration in a record and then trying to make that sound or as close as you can, or something that makes you feel the way that record makes you feel, with those high sounds. Like, I was in love with records that had those sounds in it, so those are what I went after. And later on, I liked other things and I went after those sounds. But these are all weapons in your arsenal, and they're all things that will be usable at some point, especially if you're trying to do sessions, but also if you just want to have variety on stage, something as simple as the wallet, or having 2 drums on stage and being like, this song is the other snare drum, or swapping them out, or any of those things. Again, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button to make sure you get notifications for our videos. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, ProMark by D'Addario, and really go out and experiment extra hard with your drums and try and find something that you love, because it's gonna make you interested in your playing. It's gonna bring other people in because you're gonna sound good and like you're having a good time. And at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun, so make sure you have fun.